Let's talk about the retail inflation print in a little bit more detail. The headline, of course, CPI inflation coming in at 6.07% for the month of February. Let's go across to Mythili Bhusnurmath. She's joining us now to tell us a little bit more. Mythili, perhaps a little bit higher than was broadly being expected by economists. Could you tell us the implications of this? Once more, you have the CPI inflation at the very border of the comfort zone of the Reserve Bank of India's Monetary Policy Committee to 2 to 6%. What does this mean for monetary policy formulation?
Well, what it should mean, Alex, I'll tell you what it should mean and what it seems to be meaning for the Reserve Bank of India when it comes to monetary policy formulation, because the numbers, both for consumer price inflation as well as WPI, that is the wholesale price inflation, which came in this morning, are a bit of a shocker. It's a shocker for the Reserve Bank of India, which is, to my mind, has been living in a somewhat of a Pollyanna kind of world, seeing things through rose-tinted glasses, because the inflation numbers have been edging up. We saw WPI come in this morning at level 13.11. So for more than 10 months, we've had double-digit WPI. CPI has come in at 6.07 for the month of February, higher than the January number of 6.01. And this is despite the fact that it should have got some downward pull because of the higher base effect. February 21 was 5.03 as against January 21, which is 4.06. So that high base did not impact the CPI number that came in today for February. Mind you, this is before we've seen the impact of the war and what it has meant for fuel prices. Ultimately, fuel prices will have to be increased. The government has not been doing it since November because of state elections. And the fact is that there is no free lunch. Either the fuel prices will have to be increased or the government will have to cut back taxes. If the fuel prices increase, we'll see the effect on inflation immediately. If the government cuts back on its taxes, we'll see the impact on fiscal deficit, and then the pain will come a little later. Either way, there is no escape from the pain. RBI has clearly been overly optimistic. It has underestimated the impact of higher fuel prices, the growing global tensions, and the fact that there was huge excess liquidity in the system. So today we are paying the price for RBI hubris. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any way out. I think we have to bear the pain. And I do hope that the next Monetary Policy Committee meeting, which we can April, will try to at least begin making the course correction. You cannot do an abrupt change. We lived in complacency for far too long. But it must begin to make the course correction. Otherwise, all of us are in for very, very bad times.
A couple of questions then. What do you anticipate in terms of, so do you think that there absolutely must be a rate increase in the coming financial year? And second, do you think that the RBI will be forced to revise its projection for inflation for the new financial year?
Well, see, the word forced, Alex, is a bit of a, misnomer over here because nobody can force the RBI to do what it does not wish to do. And clearly they have been wanting to support growth at the cost of inflation. RBI seems to think that, if you focus on growth, then it doesn't matter. Soon these inflation is because of supply side distortions, which of course it is partly because of that. But it is like the macroeconomic system, and I can give a comparison, it's like the human body. When you have a person suffering from very high temperature, now, regardless of what the underlying cause is, whether it's chikungunya, whether it's dengue, whether it's malaria, whether it's typhoid, the fact is you have to bring the fever down. So the first effort of every physician is that you get the fever down even as you're working on the underlying causes. So our inflation is like that. It is a symptom of a deeper malaise. So even as you address the deeper malaise, if you allow the fever or the inflation to go beyond a certain level, then you're really going to, lose it all. You're going to lose the patient, frankly. So this is what the RBI seems to be losing sight of. It is right that the cause of inflation in India might be a little different from what it is abroad. But unless you bring that inflation down, if this high inflation prolongs for a long period, it will hurt not just human welfare and individual arm army's welfare, it will ultimately hurt growth. And this is what the RBI does not seem to be getting. And I do hope the MPC will correct for that in April. As to your question of whether the RBI will hike rates, well, as I said, if you miss the bus, you cannot really suddenly do something very harsh. So what you can do certainly is hike the reverse repo rate. You can change the stance from accommodative to neutral and send out a signal that, yes, you are not averse to hiking rates. Because the RBI's monetary policy is not going to serve any more purpose. It is like pushing on a string. And the MPC must wake up to it. Unfortunately, only Jayant Verma in the MPC has been voicing these concerns. The other two external members have been complacent, going along with the majority. And the RBI internal members, you cannot expect them to disagree with the governor. So I think we're really in a bit of a catch-22 position, and largely of the RBI's own making.
Thanks so much, Mythili, for putting all of that into perspective. Of course, we're going to do this conversation in a lot more detail over the course of this evening, so do stay tuned for that. That's all the time we have for you on this edition of the ET Money Show. It's been a pleasure bringing it to you. Do stay tuned. Lots more coming up over the course of this evening.